time to get your fix. Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Hello, my name is Zach Rye with Old Man Gaming. Welcome to another horrible game review. A few disclaimers before we get started, as usual. The word horrible in the title of this video does not refer to the game or DLC I am reviewing, but actually the content itself. I do snap judgment reviews on this channel. I get 5 to 10 hours max usually with a game, and I'm just trying to give you an idea whether you are going to enjoy it right off the bat or not. Also, because of that and the fact that I think games are one of the most subjective forms of art, I will not give a score to this review system. Instead, I'm going to tell you what the game is overall. Then I'm going to go through the pros and cons of the game in my point of view, as I believe all reviews are. And then I'm going to tell you whether I personally will be sticking with the game outside the purposes of this review or not. Okay, so what game am I reviewing today? Very excited for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I am reviewing Wild Hearts. Koei Tecmo and EA Originals has gotten together to make a Monster Hunter game, and make no mistake about it. To mention this game without mentioning the Monster Hunter series from Capcom, the prolific Monster Hunter series, would be impossible. So I'm going to say this disclaimer up front. If any of you Monster Hunter people are watching this, and you know who you are, you crazy-ass people who got all up in my butt because I said, in my opinion, I didn't like Rise, chill, okay? This is an opinion. This is a review. If you like the game, play the game. If you want to buy the game, buy the game. If you think Monster Hunter is better than this game, good for you. But I'm going to tell you what I think, and you guys are going to have to deal with it. Or turn the video off. Or keep watching it and give me the view out of hate. That's fine with me too. Whatever you want to do. Alright, that unpleasantness out of the way. What's Wild Hearts? Wild Hearts is a monster hunting game. You are a guy, a character that you get to create with a relatively robust character creation, who is moving into this kind of fictional fantasy realm of Azuma. In this place, there are these creatures, these giant creatures called kimono. Not kimono, as in the robe, but kimono, like K-E-M-O-N-O. And they're these big kind of elemental creatures that you hunt. They also have the ability to kind of like walk through the terrain and turn it into the habitat that they want it to be, which makes them incredibly dangerous to humans as well as the habitat around them. You hunt them, kill them, take their parts, make weapons and armor out of it so that you can kill bigger ones. That's basically it. The storyline itself puts you kind of in the middle of nowhere. You also get attached to this thing called a kokkuri? I'm not going to pronounce things right, guys. Give me a break on this one. But basically the trick to this game is you have these kind of weird on-the-fly build mechanics. While a lot of people have compared it to Fortnite, I don't know that I'd compare it to Fortnite. It's more like a much more in-depth kind of like trap system, I guess. What's cool about these kokkuri is as you place them around the lands and territories, they stay there. They stay there. They're just there. Until you move them, until you delete them. Which I think is really kind of one of the interesting things about this game, is that if you go into a friend's, you're going to see his like kokkuri all over the place. Same with yours, whether it be boxes to jump off, or some of them destroy an impact, like the mallet, or the shrine that stops elemental stuff or whatever. But other ones, like the boxes, like there's these vines that allow you to do zip cords, campsites, all sorts of stuff. It's very cool and interesting, and a different new take to things, which I enjoy. I also like that it didn't make things feel too easy or arcadey. It felt it making it a little bit more strategic, which I enjoyed. This game's feel kind of lands somewhere between Dauntless and Monster Hunter, being Dauntless is very arcadey, whereas Monster Hunter is much more slow, methodical, and paced. This is somewhere in the in-between. It's much faster paced than Monster Hunter, but it's a lot more methodical than Dauntless, which is really very much of a my stats are better than yours sort of situation. Anyway, you end up meeting a blacksmith out there once you get your special kokery stuff. I won't spoil that. The blacksmith has you do some missions, and you end up in this city called Minato. Then the story progresses from there, but what's interesting about this story is they don't really put an emphasis on a big overarching story. It's much more, hey, you're in this city, ingratiate yourself to these people, which makes things kind of interesting. It gives you a little bit more motivation to talk to some of the NPCs than, say, a Monster Hunter did, because Monster Hunter was much more, this is the next thing you have to hunt. Go hunt this thing. Or hunt one of the other things so that you can get better armor to go hunt this thing. Whereas this one is more, hey, you're in Minato, make yourself useful, you live here now. So you go talk to people, see what they want, and then go hunt people because of that. Sure, there's plenty of hunting monsters to get armors and weapons and whatever. That's great. But there's also a lot of that character interaction, and that's one thing that this, in my opinion, the biggest thing, while other reviews have kind of pointed out the building mechanics and other stuff, I think one of the biggest differences in the flow of the game is that this game puts way more emphasis on these NPCs who are actually really wonderful, which surprised me. With Monster Hunter, while I enjoy the gameplay, and I didn't hate the characters, let's face it, we all found the handler a little obnoxious. A bunch of the other characters are just throwaways. They're not really people you necessarily care about. I mean, sure, there's standouts in Monster Hunter, but this one, I remember all of the characters' names, or at least kind of their names. I mispronounce them, but I got them. I remember what their voices are and what their personalities are. They have a very distinct one, and each one of them kind of has their own flow to them. Whether it be, I'm going to mispronounce stuff, Togana-sama or whatever, the steward, who is a girl who's been basically cast out of her clan and made to run this town that nobody believes is going to survive, and she's just trying to make things work, or trying to be of use. Or you have the scientific Sazuran, who is really cool lady who kind of invents stuff. You've got Natsume, which is the blacksmith. Yeah, and my favorite character by far, the veteran hunter before you, the injured guy, who's just this drunkard who's just constantly yelling and screaming, who reminds me of a friend of mine's character, or a character he would make in a role-playing game. I think that those characters really kind of pulled me in where some of the other missteps of this game happen, which we'll get to. In any case, there are overarching things that happen, and I'm sure as I play this game more, we're going to get into a big storyline and a final boss. We have had one big throwdown so far. I got all the way through chapter 1, but other than that, there's not really a ton of, it's like, hey, I need some help. Can you help me? Sure, no problem, Which gives you the feel of a little bit more player agency than a Monster Hunter did. All right, that's it. I mean, it's that simple, guys. Hunt monsters, bring stuff back, get to know the people, build stuff while you do. Let's get into the pros and cons, because that's where I really want to have a big discussion with you guys. Because the pros and cons of this game are huge for me. Because when I went into this game, I was expecting it to be good. I was really excited for a Monster Hunter game that wasn't Rise. And what I got was very interesting, because the highs of this game are extremely high, possibly the best things of all time in a Monster Hunter game that make this one of my favorite Monster Hunter style games ever. Then there are negatives that are just beyond stupid, and I don't understand why they're here. So I really had a roller coaster ride with this. But let's do pros first, because I like to go positive first. Right off the bat, the cooking system and the eating system is just so much smoother in this game and so much more streamlined to how you do things, especially the quest system. I'm going to put it all together. The quest system, the eating, the whole loop is way better. Let me explain. In Monster Hunter, you will come back to your main hub, your main village. You will go get the mission you want to do. You will then go talk to a chef. He has to cook you a meal that randomly maybe gives you benefits. Then you go out, you hunt the monster, then you come back all the way to the place and restart. If you, in Monster Hunter World, and it could be different for other Monster Hunters, but from my experience, even if you go back to camp, You can cook at the camp, but it never gives you quite the same benefits as if you cooked at the city. So it always just makes more sense to go all the way back to the city, get another thing. So if you're grinding out a monster and you need to kill this monster like multiple times, you have to just do that process over and over again. With this game, you can go to an island. The eating is all done on you. You hold all the items, the ingredients. You either buy them from a vendor in Minato, or you collect them while you're out running around. Then you have different racks and things that you can put them on, which will prepare them and give them bigger bonuses. And then you have a meter that allows you to eat a certain amount to get whatever benefits you have. So you can pick like this cabbage over here gives me a +7 bonus. I'll eat 3 of those, and then I'll eat this turnip that gives me a defense bonus, and then I'll eat this raw meat that gives me an attack bonus, and then it boosts all of these things. So you get to pick exactly what you want to get out of your eating experience. Plus, and I don't know if you guys are realizing this, you can do it in the field because it's not required out to go back to the place. On top of that, any missions you do, any hunts you go on, you can initiate them from any campfire. Every place you go to, every big biome has one camp with at least one campfire at it. So you can just go to this campfire, you can pick the mission that you want to do as long as it's in the same area. Then you just get up, you go hunt that monster. Then you can fast travel back to that camp, get the food that you were drying there, eat the food, start drying some more food, restart the mission and go. No loading screens, no nothing. You're just in that area, working that area. I loved this. I absolutely loved this because I could make real story progression. I'm not missing out on anything by not always running back to the city. So what ends up happening is you have these big half-hour chunks when you're in the city, talking to people, getting missions, changing out your equipment, changing out your armor and stuff like that. And then you just head to an island and you go, I'm going to do this mission first, and I'm going to do this mission, and I'm going to do this mission, and just keep rotating it out. And I know what you're saying. Well, what happens when you hunt this thing and you get the stuff and you want to make the armor, but you don't want to go back to the city? You can actually use your Kokiri powers to build a forge just about anywhere on the map, and then just forge the equipment you want that you needed to forge, and then just keep on progressing. So you never have to go back to the city until you need to progress the story, until you've done all the missions. I think this is way cooler. Just way cooler, way more streamlined experience. And just that was one of the things that immediately gripped me, immediately took me in, and just pulled me in. I was yes, this is what I wanted from Monster Hunter World. I always wanted, my favorite part about World was the expeditions. Nobody ever did the expeditions in normal game, but I loved them because you just got to walk around and see how everything interacted with each other, figure out where everything is, that sort of thing, which is a lot more useful in World, I'll give it that, because this does not have as much interactions, but still with this, I could just go to that place and just explore that place while I'm doing hunts, and I think that's really great. I think that's absolutely great, and I love it. My next pro, I've already kind of talked about. The voice work and the NPC characters here really speak to me, and I wasn't expecting that. These kind of games, I don't get into the NPCs usually. They don't usually do anything for me, and I don't expect good voice work because it's obviously, a Japanese game kind of coming over here, but the voice work is solid here. It is solid stuff. Very few missteps, very few weird emotion changes from translation. And then the characters themselves, I actually feel myself getting invested in characters instead of just skipping through lines of dialogue as fast as I can so that I can figure out what it wants me to kill next. I am invested in these characters to the point where I actually never thought I'd say this. I would love romance angles in this game just because it would give me a chance to get to know the characters better. Never would have thought of that in any of the other Monster Hunters because none of those characters even remotely do anything for me. It's the gameplay in those games, whereas with this one, it's not. I love it. Want more of it. Want more character development. It's great. Every time I'm talking to a character, I never feel bored by the conversation, which is usually the way it is. Usually in these kind of games, I'm finding my time in the city just very tedious. And this is helped alleviate by the fact that I don't have to constantly go back to the city to talk to a weird scarred cat to get porridge so that I stand a chance of hunting the next thing. I don't have to do that anymore. So, like, my time in the city is actually time I get to spend in the city having fun and exploring it, not just something I have to constantly tediously do. Because of that, it just alleviates all of that and makes it just a much more flowing and nice experience. I'm not shitting on Monster Hunter, just so that everybody knows that out there. I just think they do this part better. And don't get me wrong, we're going to get to the cons. I'm going to tell you what they did not as better. So, Monster Hunter people, if you're already pissed, I mean, whatever, you guys are probably already pissed, but I'm going to talk about it. My next big pro is the level design here. Again, I've only been to 2 different biomes right now. Because I'm only in chapter 1 still. I love them. I love the level design. They are both vertical, but they're never confusing. That was something I had a serious problem with in Rise, is that everything felt like it was always above me or below me, and I didn't know how to get up or down. And the landscape was very like, I just walk on everything, so nothing makes sense. This one has kind of vertical feels to it without, like, I always know where I can go and where I can't go, and I like that about that. There's nice little attentions on the map design. I'm going to include this in here, even though it's kind of different. The other thing that I really like is you can actually see where the monster moves by what's happening in the terrain. The monster can destroy any part of the terrain. So if it walks through a bamboo forest, you see bamboo trees down. If it walks through stones, you see stones down. I thought that was a really nice touch. I don't remember any of my Monster Hunter experiences necessarily doing that. There were like scratch marks and like your little bugs would find things in Monster Hunter World. But in this, you can actually track the monster like you would track a monster, which I really enjoy. I thought that was really good. All right, let's get into the cons. Let's do it. Okay, first of all, I don't want to let this go because everybody else there seems to be letting this go as far as reviews. I mean, not the independent people, but the AAA guys. They're all like, there's some performance issues. Let's talk about the other stuff. The performance issues are pretty rough, especially if you're playing it on PC. I'm playing it on a good, a higher-end mid-level PC, basically, if you can decipher what that means. And I get frame rate dips and I get drops no matter what settings I'm on. And weird freezes, like freezes at inopportune moments, freezes at all sorts of other times. I also had some very strange audio bugs where one character would go through 14 lines of dialogue in one line of dialogue. They'd be saying everything at the same time, and I'd have to somehow try and figure out what that was. This kind of stuff's not acceptable, guys. It's just not. You need to be releasing a good game, and I don't like that everybody gives people passes on these kind of bugs. I think reviewers give passes on the feedback issues a little bit because they've been playing games so much that they can kind of, like, if you play games a lot, you can kind of play through frame rate dips. You're used to it. We've had it so much in our lives that we know how to do it. Like, if the frame freezes for a millisecond during one of my dodges and I needed to dodge again, I'm not going to forget to do that second dodge. I already know I'm going to do it, and I know where my character is going to end up just because I've done it so much that, like, you could just kind of play through. But if you're not somebody who's constantly playing, if you're a casual player, that's going to really mess you up and get you killed in this game, which I don't like. Performance issues are bad. We need to stop releasing games in this kind of condition. A little bugs, that's fine. I'm okay with it, but there was some rough performance issues that really took away from my enjoyment of this game, especially with how pretty it is, or is supposed to be. There are whole moments that are just gloriously pretty. The landscape, the monsters are just beautifully designed, and then all of a sudden you get these weird frame rate dips and issues, and it just takes you right out of it. So I got to give it a big con there. My next con is just the dumbest fucking thing that I've ever seen in my life. And I don't... Granted, I've only gotten to play with one of them since I just got through Chapter 1. I don't understand the reason for this con. Wish someone would explain it to me. They lock 3 of the 8 weapons behind this arbitrary Chapter 1. So, like, when you first start the game, You start with a katana for the prologue. Fine, I get it. You're just showing people how to play the game, no problem. Once you get through that opening little tutorial section, they're like, you can build 5 weapons. The umbrella, the giant greatsword type thing, the Nodachi, the bow and arrow, which is awesome in this game, and then the katana that you already have. And there's 3 question marks. Why are any of the weapons locked? Why? The only reason that you can tell me is that, the only reason I could see, like if I'm deducing it, is, oh, they're too powerful. Well, if they're too powerful, then they're either too powerful for the rest of the game too, or they're fine back there and you're just a little overpowered in the beginning. Whatever the reason, I don't like the idea of because in these kind of games, the weapon is the play style. I don't like my entire play styles being locked behind an arbitrary point I have to get to, especially if I watched the footage and I was like, I want to play the cannon, and then I get in there and I can't play the cannon for the first 1/5 of the game. That's unacceptable. There should never be locks on your weapon choices. You should never have that in a game like this. Like, that's everything. That's like a class style. Like, that's the whole thing. Don't lock weapons behind shit. My next con, and this I might get a little shit about. I don't care, but it's just laziness. The Kokiri staff. Everybody's talking about how great it is on the internet. It's basically a staff that then can turn into a shuriken, that can turn into like the tongfa, and then turns into this giant greatsword. This is fucking lazy. How cool would this have been if we got 4 more weapons out of it? Or at least, if you want the giant greatsword to be the Kokiri staff, big gauge up, fine. It turns into that. But what I would love to play with just a shuriken, I'd love to play with just a tonfa. The reason they did this, they had some basic ideas for each one of these, and they didn't know what quite to do with the overarching idea of it, so they just meshed it into one and made it this shape-shifting weapon. I hate shape-shifting weapons. I think it is lazy. It just is. I don't want 6 weapons in one. I want to just use the star or just use the tongfa. It immediately makes me mad. I just think that's laziness. I think it's laziness. You wouldn't see that in a Monster Hunter game. You just wouldn't. I mean, a lot of you are probably yelling at me Charge Blade right now, but the Charge Blade has 2 forms, just 2 forms. And let's face it, the Charge Blade, or the Charge Axe, doesn't look like a Charge Axe or a fucking sword when it's there. It looks like a big, weird transformer that you're smacking somebody with. It's insane. So, like, it's original, whereas this is not. It's just like 4 lazy-ass ideas shoved into one to make it a full idea. I don't like that. I know everybody online is like, this is the coolest weapon. I think it's stupid. I'm not going to play it just because I hate the concept. Hate it from the ground up. Alright, I've talked for way too long. This review has gone on way too long. I don't even know if I got the footage to cover this, but whether or not I'm going to stick with Wild Hearts, yes. Most assuredly I'm going to stick with Wild Hearts. I really like this game. It may be my favorite of the genre. Granted, I have not played that many of the genre. Monster Hunter people, I said it. I haven't played that many of the genre. Don't fucking comment it below. Blah, blah, blah. Don't, alright? I haven't played that many Monster Hunter games, but of the 4 that I've now played, this is probably my favorite. I'm going to be putting a lot in. It has grabbed me in a way that World did. World grabbed me and never let go. I have thousands of hours into that game at this point. I bought it 3 times. I think that, like, it spoke to me. It gave me that wonder, and it gave me an experience that this one kind of has done. It's pulled me back in where Rise never did, even when I went back to it when it went to Game Pass, just to give it another fair chance. So I'm definitely going to be playing this. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? I'm sure somebody's going to have a point of view on that. You can comment below. Of course you can. Your comments are always welcome here, positive or negative. I mean, try to be nice about it, though, guys. I want to say this one more time. I did a video on Monster Hunter Rise a little while ago. A few years ago. You guys came after me, and all I said was, in my opinion, I didn't think it was that good. This is all my opinion. If you like the game, play the game. If you don't like the game, don't play the game. If you like something else, like it. I'm just getting out in front of this Monster Hunter stuff. Seriously. This is just my opinion. Take it or leave it. It's up to you. In any case, I really enjoyed this game. I will be playing more of it. I hope we get a sequel. I hope it sells well enough to get a sequel. And I'm looking forward to getting all the way through and really enjoying it. All right, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or don't, up to you. You can contact us on Facebook at OhMyGamingDH, on Twitter at OhMyGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows from there. Until then, until next time, keep watching, keep listening, I'll keep making them. See you guys next time.